Okay, the next topic is on power of diverse platforms, overcoming the challenges of using new technology and improving efficiency. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Ms. Trisha Srivastava, who is Vice President at Genpact. Giving a brief introduction for Ms. Trisha, she carries overall 19 plus years of experience and global exposure with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and services industry across US and Europe in driving cost transformation, strategy, corporate finance, re-engineering and project management, Lean Six Sigma and service delivery operation. Her current role is focused on cost and business transformation. She has successfully driven results in complex business environments with multiple goals and objectives. With this, please welcome her with a huge round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for joining back after lunch. That mentions a special thanks, right? So this is a post-lunch session, and I thought I'm going to keep it pretty light, and also for the reason that our esteemed colleagues have actually really covered very meaningful insights from across the tech industry this morning. So everything I say is largely going to overlap, and please bear with me. You know, as I heard through the morning presentations, the question that has continued to stay in my mind is that there is so much of tech innovation that's happening. Cloud is really bursting on the tech scene right now. And, there is so much of improvement that can be generated. But has BPO as a tech industry really embraced technology, And if we think of our day-to-day experience, we can book a cab in a minute. My Apple Music every morning tells me which mood I'm in and what songs can I play, and it knows my favorite numbers for the day and for the drive. I mean, are we really providing that kind of insight to our customers, and are we really generating that kind of value for our customers? So are we really using technology to drive meaningful insights and making tech really being pervasive in what we do in the outsourcing space? So, we definitely, and that actually brings us to the, just give me, okay. What is the role of outsourcing providers today in the era of emerging tech, right? So BPOs are no longer just a service provider, and we heard a lot of you share a lot of insights as to how the value driver is changing today, right? So, we are still doing the same work. We are doing transaction processing. There is still contact center work happening. There's still people picking up the calls. But we are not in the game for labor arbitrage anymore. It is not a few FTs productivity. It is no longer Lean Six Sigma projects. That value and insight narrative has actually changed for us to now become real strategic partners. And there can be so many things that we mean by strategic partnership. But the core remains the same. The core remains the value. As to what I'm doing today, can a CFO, is it helping a CFO? Is it helping a CIO? Am I giving them insights good enough for them to change a few things that's going to impact their share price? That is the kind of partnership that they're looking at us, today. And that cannot happen till we embrace tech and drive impact by driving transformation. My key role today and for the last few years has been on sides of different transformation, business transformation and cost transformation. And one of the interesting things that I often experience is at the end of a 5-year contract, the customer comes back and asks, what changes have you driven for us? What value have you driven for us? This is a contract, you've done good work, you've met the SLAs, you've met the KPIs, but what's the value that you've driven for us, right? And that journey today has to begin from the day a customer agrees to partner with us, right? So how do we embrace technology so that we continuously adapt ourselves, reinvent ourselves, And that's not just one space. That's not traditional contact center. That's not credit card and collections. It is actually supply chain. It is actually transportation. It is actually the whole credit card fraud risk analytics. How do we every day change the nature of business for our customers so that we can drive outcomes for them? And that's not going to happen without technology. But technology certainly comes with its own challenges. We heard the challenges of, putting garbage in the system and taking garbage out of the system. That's so true because, many companies and across the forum, many service providers have implemented bots. But have the bots really reduced costs for customers? Have they really given the end client the customer experience that they needed to have? We don't know. Because, one of the key challenges, and today post-lunch, I'm going to talk about challenges, and the bigger part of understanding challenges is intuitiveness, Data shares insights, but humans are still needed to be intuitive. That's something that will take a long time, at least in the outsourcing space. And that's where our roles as professionals come in to embrace technology. Let me give you an anecdote to explain what I mean by this, and it's actually my real story. One of the days I was on back-to-back calls, and my husband was also busy. And my kid wanted to play with me. I did not have the time, so I told him that, why don't you play something on your own? I, by the way, have Siri, Alexa, and Google, all three at home. For random reasons, I don't know what value they bring to me, but I do have them. So he gets up, and he goes and he looks around, and then he starts talking to Alexa. And he says, hey, Alexa, I'm getting bored. And because he talks so much with Alexa, Alexa knows him. So she asked, do you want to play a game? He didn't say the question. He said that question to me in another room. But because he talks to Alexa very often, Alexa says, do you want to play a game? And he says, yes, Alexa, I want to play a game. Alexa says, do you want to play a quiz with me? He says, what kind of quiz, Alexa? Alexa says, what kind of quiz would you like? Do you want animal names? Do you want cities and capitals? And he says, yes, cities and capitals is a good one. And for the next 20 minutes, Alexa was naming countries and giving him 4 options, and he was choosing the right or the wrong option. And that, I just took a pause and I just kept looking at it, because we all have tech. Do we really know how to use tech in the outsourcing space? We have bots, but they don't throw the right results. We are still doing accounts payable, and let me tell you, accounts payable is the starting point of any F&A outsourcing company, and still the efficiencies in account payable is 20%. And we have Blue Prism, we have X and Y, and no, I've not had any bad experience with any of these companies, but I'm telling you, we're still not automating. Our straight-through pass-through percentage is not even close to 70% across industries. So yes, you can actually digitize a manual invoice. Yes, you can send it to the scanner. Yes, the scanner can read the invoice. And yes, it can process payments, but by the way, that percentage is less than 40%. Why? So the customer is investing with us and investing with us to implement these technologies. But are we making the right use? And that goes back to the point of good data, bad data, machine learning. And it goes back to the point of garbage in and garbage out. So those are some of the challenges that our customers face and are actually in places, I would say, are reluctant to invest. And that's sort of holding the BPO companies back, because in this new age, we have to be very, very intuitive, and we have to be very insightful, right? So how do we become insightful is the key question. We've seen the tech side of it in the morning, right? I'm talking more of the intuitive side of it, and I'm talking more of the behavior side of it, because that is how we embrace technology. No matter how good an automation you do, if your people do not accept that automation, if they go on registering information in Excel sheets or notepads, that automation fails, right? So how do we prepare for the automation? How do we prepare for machine learning? How do we overall become, tech friendly, and as leaders, how do we coach our organizations to be the same so that we are at the forefront of this tech journey? And Jitendra, my friend here, will talk about emerging tech in the new era, and he will talk more about the topic. So, what are some of the prerequisites? What are the things that we should do? And what are the key lookout areas for us to think about? And I feel that as we are embracing, the first step is going to be simplification. It is going to be the simplification of tasks and activities. We saw how the whole knowledge transfer and SOP creation process could be simplified. We saw in one of the presentations, and that was excellent. It was an amazing tool to have. And similarly, there are many tools for data mining, for predictive insights. What we need to do is ensure that the right data goes into the systems, and we can go back to our customers, in different areas, in fraud, risk, and analytics space. We can go back to our customers in the supply chain space and tell them which route to take. I was working with an FMCG company, and the biggest problem that they were having, they operate out of Africa, and the biggest problem that they were having was that their trucks get attacked, or sometimes, get stolen, etc. These kind of things also happen. So, how do I use insights? So if somebody can look at all the routes for this company, for the trucking company, and see what is the safest, right? And always predict the transportation routes. Just imagine the impact that it can have for this company, right? Similarly, we can use data and insights, in different ways in helping for all the FMCG companies, the right product placement, the right pricing, where exactly in the store should the product be placed so that it catches customer attention. And all of that data resides with us. If we can just use some of these tools to analyze and mine data. There are some excellent companies like Celonis, etc., who are doing great stuff. And I was just on their website looking at that, looking at some of the demos. So, AI, machine learning, and automation are going to just stay with us, and we need to actually change and adapt and move in the direction and move fast. Some of the emerging technologies like metaverse, very soon our customers will talk about this technology. They will talk about chat. We are still doing chatbots still there. Facial recognition is going to come up in a big way. How are we thinking of providing this value to our customers? Next time this session could be in metaverse. And what we are talking, we could gamify and do it, right? So all of those things could definitely happen. And I think the role for BPO industries is to be, it's to up their game and think as to how to provide value for them. And that actually brings me to the last point, and that's what is value? Has the concept and definition of value changed for our customers? And are we abreast with that definition and concept of value? So value, like in the beginning I said, is the core and the backbone of outsourcing industry, But that nature of value has changed. Value today has to be something. It could be simple things like the closing and reporting cycle for any finance and accounting processes. Be it any industry, almost all finance and accounting work has been outsourced. How do finance and accounting teams provide that value? Imagine if we could just improve on the closing cycle, which enables the company to close its book faster and go and publish results faster ahead of the competitor. It might just impact their share price, right? So, one of the things also would be to look at the traditional way of looking at the big why in terms of value. When we think of value, we must always think, how does it impact a customer's P&L, balance sheet, net promoter score, its goals, visions, and align that value to the core of our transformation in order to drive results. That's all for me now. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, Trisha, hi. Let me take 1 minute.
Sure.
Right? My name is 𝗘𝗱𝗶𝘁𝗶𝘁, and it's very interesting being here today on a BPO conference. I started my journey with the BPO industry in 1997, so it's been 25 years. So I was part of 𝗕𝗂𝗃, which is now Genpact, and I was part of the first few employees of 𝗕𝗂𝗃, which headed the transition team, transitioned the first 9-10 processes into India, and it's not been actively part of the BPO industry, but been following that industry because it's something that I was very dearly part of. So my question to you and to everyone around is, it's been 25 years. Every time I read about BPO industry, I think we're still in that same mindset of back office, back office, back office, back office, right? You talked about 4 innovations, and I loved all the 4 points. The question is, are we really getting there? And to me, the biggest challenge that I see, and that's the question for all of you here, is, are we prepared to unlearn what we have learned? And do we now need to call this BPO industry as something completely different to say, no, we are no longer BPO, but we are now, enablers or, transformers or whatever. Or we are going to continue to be stuck in that mindset. Literally, you talked about accounts payable process. Accounts payable process, if the guy making the purchase order is feeding the value and the invoice comes, it can just go through and be paid. You literally do not need any human intervention to do something like that. Organizations, both BPOs and organizations, are not prepared to do that. I can give you the example of a bank, which calls itself, as a pioneer in digital banking. When I, as a vendor, they said, no, first you create a sign-in, create a digital profile, send us a digital invoice, but you also have to send us a physical invoice. Excuse me, why? So the problem is on both sides, but it's just, so my question, very specific question. Anything that Genpact has done, and I still treat Genpact as one of the leaders in the industry, anything that has been done which you think is transformational? Any one example?
So I cannot speak.
Thank you. Sorry for taking so long.
No problem. I cannot speak for Genpact as I'm here in my personal capacity today, right? So I cannot quote company-specific examples. But to the first part of your question, what I'll say is that that journey is already on. I think a lot of leading emerging outsourcing companies are on that journey and are doing stuff. And transformation no longer is a sell pitch. It is the operative word, In the morning we heard of, outcome-based models. Today, there is no labor arbitrage, right? That's out of the game. You look at a pricing sheet, it is based on outcome-based model. It is based on win-win scenarios. It is where the outsourcing company's skin is in the game, right? You will not become profitable for a large firm till you do an outcome-based model, right? So transformation is the operative word now. We are thinking and we are doing. But the problem is of the right tool and technology and the implementation of that. How many bots are truly really active, right? We all have AI functionalities. We actually saw the data in the morning that only 40% of the licenses are used, right? There is machine learning, but is the data, are we feeding in the right data? So I think the next step, the immediate next step for any outsourcing company is to actually simplify their stuff and then move on to the automation and digitization journey. And yes, there are many examples of successful transformation business cases. Every year, there are firms. In fact, Genpact also drives hundreds and millions of dollars of impact for the customer. So there are 2 parts of this. A, how do you digitize and how do you monetize? And the part B is how do you capture value? Both the parts, and they are there in the public space. You can look at Genpact, Accenture, Infosys, any firm, and you'll see those stories. But I do see that we are on that journey.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Please give her a huge round of applause.